Imagine this. You walk into a room, and without saying a word, every eye is drawn to you, not because of your outfit or your smile, but because of an invisible force that radiates from deep within. It's a power that makes a man stop in his tracks, unable to look away, unable to forget you. Carl Jung, the legendary psychologist, called this the anima, the hidden feminine energy that lives in every woman, waiting to be unleashed. But here's the secret. Most women never tap into it. In this video, we're diving into 5 transformative layers of feminine power, inspired by Carl Jung's timeless wisdom, that can make you magnetic not just to men, but to your own soul. From the spark of emotional fire to the allure of untouchable mystery, these secrets will not only captivate others, but will awaken the most powerful version of you. Stay until the end. For the final secret, it might just change how you see yourself forever. Ready to unlock your hidden power? Let's dive in. Deep inside every man lies a secret. He can't quite name a longing for a woman who feels both familiar and untouchable. Feel like a dream he's had 1,000 times but can't explain. This isn't about the perfect partner society tells him to chase or the idealized image from movies. It's something ancient, primal, and woven into his soul. Carl Jung called it the anima, the feminine archetype that lives in a man's unconscious, shaping how he sees women and what he craves most. In this chapter, we're peeling back the first layer of feminine power, the anima, and how you, without even trying, can awaken this force in a man, making you the woman he yearns for without knowing why. So, what exactly is the anima? Imagine it as a hidden blueprint in a man's psyche, a mosaic of emotions, images, and instincts passed down through generations. It's not just one type of woman. It's not his mother, his ex, or a celebrity crush. The anima is a feeling softness that soothes, mystery that intrigues, strength that challenges, and vulnerability that disarms. When a woman embodies these qualities authentically, she becomes a mirror for a man's deepest desires, stirring something in him he can't control. Carl Jung said, "The anima is the soul of a man's unconscious. When it's awakened, he doesn't just see you as a person, he sees you as a symbol of everything he's been searching for his entire life." Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Sarah, a 32-year-old graphic designer who never considered herself magnetic. She wasn't the loudest in the room or the most glamorous, but something about her made people, especially men, pause. At a work event, Sarah was chatting with a colleague, Tom. She wasn't trying to impress him, she was just being herself. One moment, she was laughing at a silly joke, her eyes sparkling with warmth. The next, she shared a quiet, thoughtful story about a time she felt lost after a breakup, but found her way by rediscovering her love for art. Tom, usually reserved, found himself hanging on her every word. Later, he told a friend, "I don't know what it is about her. She's not like anyone I've met. She feels different." What happened here, Sarah? Without realizing it, tapped into her anima energy. She wasn't performing or chasing attention. She was living in her truth, playful yet profound, open yet grounded. Her authenticity activated Tom's unconscious, making him feel like he was in the presence of something rare and sacred. This is the power of the anima. It doesn't demand effort. It flows when you embrace every part of who you are. But here's where it gets interesting. The anima isn't about fitting into a mold or becoming someone else's fantasy. Carl Jung warned that a man's anima can lead him to project his inner desires onto you, seeing you as a goddess or a savior rather than a real person. If you twist yourself to match that projection, say, by pretending to be sweeter, quieter, or more dramatic than you are, you'll exhaust yourself, and the connection will eventually crack. The real magic happens when you lean into your contradictions, your laughter and your tears, your fire and your calm. A woman who lives in this wholeness becomes a puzzle a man can't solve, but doesn't want to stop trying. Think about iconic women like Cleopatra or modern figures like Rihanna. Their allure isn't just beauty, it's the way they embody every shade of themselves. Cleopatra was a fierce strategist, but also a playful seductress. Rihanna can be bold and unapologetic one moment, then soft and vulnerable in her music the next. They don't suppress parts of themselves to please others. They let every facet shine. That's what makes them unforgettable. You don't need to be a queen or a pop star to do this. You just need to stop hiding. Here's a real-world example. Picture yourself at a coffee shop, catching up with a guy you've been seeing. He's talking about his stressful week at work. And instead of rushing to give advice or fill the silence, you listen. Really listen. Your eyes meet his, and you nod, letting him feel heard. Then, when he asks about your day, you share a small, honest moment. Maybe how you danced in your kitchen to your favorite song this morning, feeling silly but alive. It's not a grand story, but it's real. That blend of presence and authenticity of being fully there for him while staying true to yourself lights a spark. He leaves thinking, there's something about her I can't figure out. Why does this work? Because the anima thrives on emotional depth, not perfection. Psychological research backs this up. Studies show that men are drawn to women who display a range of emotions: joy, curiosity, even vulnerability, because it triggers dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. When you're authentic, you create moments of emotional surprise that keep him hooked. It's not about playing games. It's about being so fully yourself that he can't help but be drawn in. So, how do you tap into this anima energy? It's simpler than you think, but it takes courage. First, stop apologizing for who you are. If you're loud, let your laugh fill the room. If you're quiet, let your silence speak. If you're both, let yourself flow between them. Second, embrace your inner world. Spend time alone, journaling, creating, or just sitting with your thoughts. The more you know yourself, the more your anima energy shines. Finally, trust that you don't need to chase anyone's approval. Carl Jung believed that a woman who lives authentically becomes a force of nature, pulling others into her orbit without trying. Here's a practical tip. Try this for one day. Before you interact with anyone, take a moment to check in with yourself. Ask, how do I feel right now? What makes me feel alive then? Carry that energy into your conversations. Maybe you share a quirky story about something that made you smile. Or maybe you let yourself be vulnerable about a dream you're chasing. Whatever it is, let it be true. You'll be amazed at how people, especially men, respond to that raw, unguarded energy. As we wrap up this chapter, let's leave with a question. What part of yourself have you been holding back? Afraid it's too much or not enough? The anima doesn't live in perfection, it lives in your truth. When you step into that, you become the woman a man craves. Not because you're trying, but because you're you. Stay with us for Chapter 2, where we'll explore how to dance with your emotions to keep him captivated and keep you grounded. What's one thing you love about being you? Drop it in the comments below. We'd love to hear what makes a woman unforgettable. Isn't just her presence, it's the way she moves through her emotions, like a dancer weaving light and shadow across a stage. One moment, she's radiant with laughter. The next, she's sharing a quiet truth that stops you in your tracks. This isn't about playing games or manipulating feelings. It's about the raw, authentic power of what we're calling the emotional dance. a seamless blend of emotional contrast and self-mastery that keeps a man captivated while keeping you fiercely grounded in who you are. In this chapter, inspired by Carl Jung's insights, we'll explore how to harness this energy to ignite a spark in others. More importantly, to live as the fullest version of yourself. Let's start with emotional contrast. Picture a flame. It flickers. It grows. It softens. But it never stays still. That's what your emotions can do when you let them flow naturally. Carl Jung believed that humans are a tapestry of opposites, light and dark, joy and sorrow, fire and calm. When you embrace these contradictions, you create a magnetic pull. A woman who's always predictable, always sweet, always serious, or always bubbly fades into the background. But a woman who dares to shift, to surprise, to be fully alive in every shade of her emotions, she's impossible to forget. Take Mia, a 28-year-old teacher who never thought of herself as captivating. At a friend's dinner party, she was her usual self-playful one minute, teasing her friends about their terrible taste in music. And then, when the conversation turned deeper, sharing a story about how she overcame self-doubt to pursue her career. Her voice softened, her eyes grew intense, and the room went quiet. Across the table, a guy named Alex couldn't stop watching her. Later, he admitted, "I've never met someone who can make you laugh and then make you think so deeply in the same breath. It's like she's alive in a way most people aren't." Mia wasn't trying to impress anyone. She was just being real, shifting from light to profound, from playful to vulnerable, without fear. That's emotional contrast at work. Psychological research supports this. Studies show that unexpected emotional shifts, like moving from humor to sincerity, trigger dopamine in the brain, creating excitement and attachment. When you let your emotions dance, you're not just holding someone's attention, you're creating moments they'll replay in their mind long after you're gone. But emotional contrast only works if it's paired with emotional self-mastery. This is the anchor that keeps your dance grounded. Self-mastery means you don't need anyone else to feel whole. You're not chasing validation through likes, texts, or someone's approval. You're already complete, living a life that lights you up. And anyone who joins you is just a bonus. Carl Jung called this individuation the journey to become your true self, free from society's expectations or someone else's desires. Let's see this in action. Imagine you're on a date with a guy you like. He's telling a funny story, and you're laughing, fully in the moment, your eyes sparkling. Then, he asks about your passions. Instead of giving a generic answer, you share something real. Maybe how you love hiking because it makes you feel free, or how you're learning to paint because it helps you process your emotions. You're not trying to sound impressive, you're just sharing what makes you you. Later, when he doesn't text right away, you don't spiral into worry. You go for a run, call a friend, or dive into a book. Your world doesn't stop because of him. That's self-mastery, feeling deeply, but never losing your center. Why does this combination, contrast and mastery, work so powerfully? Because it creates a dynamic energy that's both inviting and untouchable. A man feels drawn to you because you're vibrant and alive, but he also senses you don't need him to be that way. Behavioral psychology calls this the scarcity effect. People value what feels rare or hard to attain. When you're fully engaged in your own life, whether it's pursuing a hobby, laughing with friends, or chasing a dream, you become a world he wants to step into, not a puzzle he can easily solve. Here's a real-world example. Think of someone like actress Zendaya. On screen, she's fierce and commanding, but in interviews, she's warm, funny, and sometimes shy, she shifts effortlessly between strength and softness. And you can tell she's grounded in herself. She doesn't need the spotlight to shine. That's why people are drawn to her. You don't need to be a star to do this. Try it in your own life at a coffee shop. Share a light-hearted joke with the barista. Then have a deep conversation with a friend about your dreams. Let yourself flow between emotions without holding back. So, how do you master this emotional dance? First, practice emotional honesty. Pay attention to how you feel in a moment. Happy, curious, reflective, and let that guide your words and actions. Don't suppress your joy to seem cool or hide your vulnerability to seem strong. Second, build a life you love. Fill your days with things that spark joy. A favorite playlist, a new recipe, a walk at sunset. When you're lit up from within, your emotional contrast feels natural, not forced. Finally, set boundaries. If someone's not meeting you halfway, don't chase them. Your energy is too precious to give away freely. Here's a practical tip for 1 week. Try this experiment. Each day, do one thing that makes you feel alive. Dance in your room, write in a journal, or call someone you love. Then, in a conversation, share a small piece of that joy or passion. Notice how people respond when you're radiating that energy. You'll likely find they lean in, wanting more of your light. As we close this chapter, let's reflect. What's one emotion you've been afraid to show the world? Maybe it's your boldness, your softness, or your quirky humor. The emotional dance starts when you let those parts of you move freely. In Chapter 3, we'll dive into the enigma that keeps him hooked, the art of mystery. Before we go, drop a comment. What's one thing that makes you feel truly alive? We can't wait to hear. There's a certain kind of woman who lingers in a man's mind long after she's left the room, not because she tried to be unforgettable, but because she left a piece of herself unspoken. System unspoken. A mystery he can't unravel. That's the power of the enigma. The third layer of feminine energy inspired by Carl Jung's wisdom. In this chapter, we'll uncover how to wield this elusive, magnetic force that keeps a man hooked, not through games or tricks, but by embracing the sacred space of your inner world. It's not about hiding who you are. It's about revealing just enough to spark curiosity, leaving him yearning to discover more. What makes someone unforgettable? It's not always what they say or do, it's what they don't say. The spaces they leave, unfilled. Carl Jung described this as the power of projection when a man can't fully grasp you. His imagination fills the gaps with his deepest desires. This isn't about playing hard to get or acting aloof. It's about protecting the depth of your soul, sharing your light gradually, and letting the mystery of your essence unfold naturally. A woman who embodies this enigma doesn't chase attention. She invites it by being authentically incomplete. The story with chapters yet to be read. Let's paint a picture. Meet Elena, a 30-year-old photographer with a quiet confidence that turns heads without effort. At a gallery opening, she meets James, a charming guy who's used to women spilling their life stories within minutes. Elena, however, is different. When James asks about her work, she smiles and says, "I capture moments that feel eternal. What about you? What's your passion?" Her answer is warm but brief, shifting the focus back to him. Later, when he presses for details about her life, she laughs softly and says, "That's a story for another time. I'd rather hear about the last place you traveled." James leaves the night intrigued, replaying her words, wondering about the woman who seemed so present, yet left so much unsaid. He texts her the next day, eager to see her again. Elena didn't play games, she simply honored her own boundaries. She didn't need to reveal everything to feel connected. This is the essence of the enigma you don't withhold to manipulate. You reserve your deepest self for those who earn it. Carl Jung believed that mystery is a natural byproduct of authenticity. When you live true to yourself, you create a space where others project their hopes, dreams, and curiosities. This is what makes you unforgettable. Behavioral psychology backs this up. The Zeigarnik effect shows that people obsess over incomplete experiences, unanswered questions, unresolved moments. When you share just a glimpse of your world, you leave a man wondering, what's behind that smile? What's her story? This isn't about being distant, it's about pacing the revelation of your soul. Imagine you're on a date, and he asks about your past. Instead of diving into a detailed history, you might say, I've had my share of adventures, some wild, some painful. What about you? What's the craziest thing you've ever done? You've shared a hint of yourself, but you've left him hungry for more. This blends seamlessly with strategic scarcity, the art of not always being available. A woman who's always texting back instantly, always free for a last-minute date, or always ready to share her entire world risks becoming predictable. Predictability kills curiosity. But a woman who respects her own time and energy, she's a rare gem. Picture this. You're chatting with a guy you like, and he suggests meeting up tomorrow. You're excited, but you've got plans, a yoga class, a coffee date with a friend, or just a night to yourself with a good book. So you say, tomorrow's tight, but I'm free Thursday evening. Want to grab dinner then? You're not playing hard to get. You're living a full life. That subtle scarcity makes every moment with you feel like a privilege. Let's look at a real-world example. Think of someone like Amal Clooney. She's a brilliant lawyer, a global advocate, and a mother. Yet she carries an air of mystery. In interviews, she's warm and articulate, but never overshares. She'll talk passionately about her work, then pivot to a light-hearted comment, leaving you wanting to know more. You don't need to be a public figure to do this. Try it in your own life at a party. Share a heartfelt story about a dream you're chasing. Then shift to a playful question about someone else's plans. Leave them with a spark of curiosity, not an open book. How do you cultivate this enigmatic energy? First, know your worth. Your thoughts, dreams, and experiences are sacred. Don't give them away too soon. Second, practice strategic scarcity. Don't always be the first to text or the one to keep the conversation going. Let silence create space for imagination. Third, embrace your inner world. Spend time alone, reflecting, creating, or exploring what makes you tick. The more you understand yourself, the more naturally this mysterious energy flows. Here's a practical tip for 1 week. Try holding back a little. When someone asks a personal question, give a thoughtful but brief answer. Then turn it back to them. Notice how they lean in, eager to know more. Or, when you're tempted to text right away, wait a few hours, not to play games, but because you're busy living your life. You'll see how this subtle shift changes the dynamic, making you a magnet for deeper connections. This isn't about being someone you're not. It's about trusting that you're enough without needing to prove it. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." When you protect your inner world and share it selectively, you become an enigma, not because you're hiding, but because you're whole. That wholeness is what keeps a man hooked, not just for a night, but for a lifetime. As we wrap up, ask yourself, what's one part of your life you can hold sacred, sharing it only with those who deserve it? In Chapter 4, we'll explore how to radiate joy from within. creating a light that draws others in effortlessly. Drop a comment below. What's one thing you love keeping just for yourself? We'd love to hear your thoughts. There's a kind of woman who doesn't just walk into a room, she brings the sunlight with her. Her laugh is contagious. Her energy feels like a warm breeze. And even on her quiet days, she radiates a spark that makes others want to stay close. This isn't about being the loudest or the most polished. It's about the unshakable joy that comes from living a life you love. A joy so authentic it becomes magnetic. In this chapter, inspired by Carl Jung's call to embrace your true self, we'll explore the fourth layer of feminine power, finding joy in yourself. This is the energy that lights up a man's world, not because you're trying to impress him, but because you're so deeply in love with your own life that he can't help but want to be part of it. Joy isn't about being happy all the time or pretending everything's perfect. It's about finding delight in the small, real moments, sipping coffee while watching the sunrise, dancing to your favorite song in the kitchen, or losing yourself in a hobby that makes your heart sing. Carl Jung once said, "The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. When you embrace every part of yourself, the silly, the serious, the messy, the magical, you create an energy that's impossible to ignore. This joy isn't dependent on anyone else's approval, it's yours. And that's what makes it so powerful." Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Chloe, a 29-year-old bookstore clerk who never thought of herself as magnetic. Chloe had a knack for finding joy in the little things, rearranging books into colorful displays, humming old jazz tunes while working, or taking long walks to photograph quirky street signs. One evening, at a friend's game night, she was her usual self, laughing at a bad Monopoly move, then sharing a heartfelt story about finding an old love letter tucked inside a used book. A guy named Liam, who'd been quietly observing, later told her, "You have this way of making everything feel alive. I don't know how you do it." Chloe wasn't trying to charm him. She was just living her joy. And it lit up the room. What made Chloe so captivating? She wasn't chasing attention or trying to be someone she wasn't. Her joy came from within, from a life she'd built around what made her happy. This is what Carl Jung meant by living authentically, when you're fully engaged in your own world. You don't need anyone else to validate you. That independence is magnetic. A 2023 study in social psychology found that people are most drawn to those who exude relaxed, vibrant energy, people who seem at ease with themselves without needing to control or impress others. Chloe's joy was her superpower, and it invited Liam to step into her world, not because she demanded it, but because he wanted to. This kind of joy isn't just attractive, it's transformative. When you're lit up from within, you create a ripple effect. Think of someone like Beyoncé. On stage, she's a powerhouse. But in her quieter moments, like when she talks about her love for her kids or her creative process, there's a warmth that feels so real, so unguarded. You don't need to be a superstar to have this energy. You just need to give yourself permission to enjoy your life, whether anyone's watching or not. Picture this. You're at a cafe with a friend, and you're sharing how you spent your weekend, trying a new recipe that turned out hilariously bad. You laugh, not caring if you look silly, because the memory makes you happy. A guy nearby overhears and smiles, drawn to your unguarded joy. Later, when you're on a date, you talk about a book you're reading, your eyes lighting up as you describe a scene that moved you. You're not performing, you're sharing what sets your soul on fire. That's the kind of energy that makes a man think, "I want to be around her. She makes life feel bigger." So, how do you cultivate this radiant joy? First, reconnect with what makes you feel alive. Maybe it's painting, gardening, or taking long drives with the windows down. Whatever it is, make time for it, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. Second, let go of the need to be perfect. Your joy doesn't have to look like anyone else's. It could be laughing at a cheesy movie or getting lost in a podcast. Third, stop waiting for someone else to make you happy. A woman who waits for a man's text, a compliment, or a date to feel good is giving away her power. But a woman who finds joy in her own world, she's unstoppable. Here's a practical tip. Try a joy audit this week. Write down 3 things that make you smile, big or small, and do one of them every day. Maybe it's blasting your favorite song, sketching in a notebook, or treating yourself to a fancy coffee. Then, in a conversation, share one of those moments with someone. Don't force it. Just let your excitement spill out naturally. You'll notice people lean in, drawn to your light, because you're not trying to impress, you're just being you. This joy also protects you. When you're rooted in your own happiness, you're less likely to lose yourself in a relationship. If a man doesn't call back or a date doesn't go as planned, you're not crushed. You're still out there, dancing in your kitchen, chasing your dreams, living your life. That resilience is what makes you irresistible. Carl Jung believed that a woman who lives her truth becomes a force of nature, pulling others into her orbit without effort. Your joy is your gravity. It draws people in, not because you're seeking them, but because you're already whole. As we close this chapter, ask yourself, what's one small thing that brings you joy? And how can you make more space for it? In Chapter 5, we'll explore how to create connections that make you unforgettable by being fully present and inviting others to show up as their best selves. Before we go, drop a comment. What's one thing that lights up your world? We can't wait to hear. There's a moment in every deep connection when time seems to stop, a moment when you're so fully present with someone that they feel truly seen, truly heard, like they're the only person in the world. This isn't about grand gestures or perfect words. It's about the quiet power of being there, fully, and inviting someone to show up as their best self. In this final chapter, inspired by Carl Jung's insights on authentic connection, we'll uncover the 5th layer of feminine energy, the art of creating unforgettable bonds. By blending complete presence with the space for a man to invest in you, you become more than a memory. You become a feeling he carries forever. What makes a connection unforgettable? It's not about how much you say or how charming you are. It's about how you make someone feel. Carl Jung believed that true self-development isn't just about knowing yourself, but about being fully present in reality, connecting with others from a place of depth and authenticity. When you're present, you're not distracted, not rushing to fill silences, not trying to prove yourself. You're simply there, listening, responding, and creating a space where someone can be their truest self without fear. That's the kind of connection that lingers in a man's heart long after the moment passes. Let's bring this to life with a story. Meet Lisa, a 31-year-old marketing manager who always felt she blended into the background. At a work conference, she sat next to David, a colleague she'd barely spoken to before. As he shared his stress about a big project, Lisa didn't jump in with advice or try to one-up his story. Instead, she looked him in the eye, nodded, and said, "That sounds intense. How are you holding up?" Her quiet presence made David feel safe, and he opened up about his fears of failure, something he rarely shared. Later, when Lisa shared a small story about her own challenges, she didn't overshare. She just offered a glimpse, saying, "I've had moments where I doubted myself too, but I'm learning to trust my gut." David couldn't stop thinking about her. Months later, he told her, "That conversation stuck with me. You made me feel like I could breathe. Lisa's magic wasn't in being flashy, it was in her presence. She listened with her whole heart, creating a space where David felt understood. But she also gave him room to shine. When he later offered to help her with a project, she didn't brush it off with an "I'm fine." She smiled and said, "That'd be great. Let's figure it out together." By letting him invest, she deepened their connection. This is the dual power of this chapter, being fully present and giving a man the chance to show up for you. Why does this work? Behavioral psychology calls it empathic resonance. When you align with someone's emotions, they feel safe and valued. A 2024 study found that people form stronger bonds with those who listen without judgment, making them feel heard on a soul-deep level. But it's not just about listening, it's about inviting investment. Carl Jung's concept of individuation reminds us that people grow when they're challenged to be their best selves. When you give a man the opportunity to step up, whether by sharing a vulnerability he can support or letting him contribute to your world, you create a bond that's not easily broken. Think of someone like Oprah Winfrey. Her interviews are legendary, not because she dominates the conversation, but because she listens with such presence that her guests feel safe sharing their deepest truths. Yet, she also shares just enough of her own story to make the connection mutual. You don't need to be a talk show host to do this. Imagine you're on a date, and the guy you're with mentions a tough day at work. Instead of offering solutions, you say, "That sounds rough. Want to tell me more?" You lean in. Phone away, fully focused. Later, when he asks how you're doing, you share a small dream, like wanting to travel somewhere new, and let him offer ideas. That mutual exchange builds a connection that feels alive. How do you create this unforgettable energy? First, practice presence. Put your phone down, make eye contact, and listen without planning your next response. Silence is okay. It's a space for connection to grow. Second, let him invest. If he offers to help with something small, like carrying your groceries or brainstorming a work idea, accept it graciously. It's not about needing him, it's about letting him feel valued. Third, share selectively. Offer a piece of your world, a hope, a fear, a dream, but don't lay it all bare. Let him earn the deeper parts of you. Here's a practical tip for 1 week. Focus on being fully present in every conversation. When someone speaks, listen with your whole body. Nod, smile, respond from the heart. If they offer support, accept it with a thank you. That means a lot. Notice how people respond when they feel truly seen. You'll find they open up, drawn to the safety of your presence. And when you give them a chance to show up for you, they'll feel invested in the connection. This energy is protective. 2. When you're present and authentic, you attract people who value you for who you are, not what you can do for them. If someone doesn't reciprocate, you don't crumble, you're still whole, still shining. Carl Jung said, "The meeting of two personalities is like the contact of two chemical substances if there is any reaction. Both are transformed. When you show up fully, you create a spark that transforms both you and the person you're with." As we wrap up this chapter, ask yourself, when was the last time you felt truly present with someone? And how can you bring more of that into your life? This is the final secret to unlocking your feminine power. A connection that doesn't just attract, but transforms. Stay with us for the outro, where we'll tie it all together and inspire you to step into your fullest self. Drop a comment below. What's one moment when you felt truly seen? And how did it feel? We can't wait to hear your story. And there you have it, the 5 transformative layers of feminine power, inspired by Carl Jung's timeless wisdom, that can make you magnetic, unforgettable, and truly alive. From the primal pull of the anima to the radiant joy that lights up your world. From the enigmatic allure that keeps him hooked to the emotional dance that captivates. And finally, to the connections that transform both you and those around you. These secrets aren't just about attracting others, they're about stepping into the fullest, most authentic version of you. When you live from this place, unapologetically vibrant, deeply present, and fiercely true, you don't just draw people in, you inspire them to grow, to feel, to become better versions of themselves. This is the heart of Carl Jung's teachings. To become who you truly are is the greatest gift you can give yourself and the world. So, take a moment, right now. Close your eyes and ask, what's one step I can take today to embrace my own power? Maybe it's laughing a little louder, sharing a piece of your heart, or simply being present in a conversation. Whatever it is, start small, but start now. Your feminine energy isn't something to unlock, it's already within you, waiting to shine. If this journey resonated with you, don't keep it to yourself. Hit that subscribe button and tap the bell so you never miss a video from Jung Psyche Hub. Share this video with a friend who needs to hear it. And drop a comment below. Which of these 5 secrets spoke to you the most? And why we're building a community of souls ready to embrace their power, and we want you to be part of it. Like, comment, and share to spread the light of Jung's wisdom. Let's ignite the world together, one authentic, radiant step at a time.